Okay, well, hey everybody, welcome to the TVCRE podcast episode.
11.
Yeah, we are here. We're ready to rock and roll, going into the double digits.
That's right.
So we are here today in Mountain Home, right?
Yeah, we ventured out to Mountain Home, got the camera crew out here, our man Jack, and here meeting with Brock Cherry, City of Mountain Home economic developer.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
So, yeah, welcome. Thanks for having us into your little niche area of our market.
Welcome to the best city in Idaho.
Yeah,
right?
It's
That's
already
all I
great.
have to say. I'm so excited that you guys are here. A lot of people don't get off like the exit. Like they just drive past Mountain Home, but you guys got to, get off, kind of see what's going on, and I can't wait to tell you all about what we're doing here.
Well, before we jump into the city, we'd like to start out and learn a little bit about you. So besides having an excellent mustache, what else do we know about you?
So I'm a southeastern Idaho kid. I was born in Idaho Falls, grew up in a small town called Rigby.
Yep, we know.
Go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
My mom graduated from Rigby. So
Awesome.
Here we go.
So I did that. I got my undergrad in political science from BYU, Idaho, and then I went up to the University of Idaho initially as a law student. A year and a half in, I realized that this is gross. As far as just it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
However, my last semester of undergrad, in my introduction to public administration course, we did a 2-week just crash course on urban planning. And I was like, this is a job. This is a real thing. But I was already accepted to law school at the time. That was the plan. We went with it. Mm-hmm. So when I figured I didn't love being a lawyer, I thought about those happy moments about urban planning. And I transferred to the urban planning program at the University of Idaho. And then after that, it was all in.
It's always great how one experience can shift your trajectory.
It was,
yeah.
And it was extremely scary. Telling my parents that I'm not going to be a lawyer, but I'm going to be a planner, and them having no idea what that term means. Yeah. Thinking I'm going to plan parties, which is a noble profession, also. But it was scary.
But to go from being an attorney to a city planner is a big difference.
It's very substantial.
Yeah.
After graduate school, I was fortunate enough to get my first planning gig for the city of Meridian as a assistant city planner, and I got to cut my teeth. That was in 2017. So things
talk about a community to cut your teeth in.
Things were hot.
Yeah.
Extremely busy. As an assistant city planner, I didn't get to really do the sexy city planning things they teach in planning school. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was like reviewing signs.
Occupancy permits.
And interacting with the public, which was really cool. And then after that, I had the opportunity to go to Twin Falls as a city planner and be more involved with multifaceted planning, from current planning to long range. I played a key role as a project manager for their city code rewrite.
Oh, nice.
We made a lot of headway, but then we had some employee turnover there. Not because they aren't an excellent place to work. They're one of the best ran cities in the state, in my opinion. But we kind of dispersed that little dream team, and I think they're still working on it, but I can't wait to see what happens when they finish it. Yeah. And then I was recruited to be the guy here.
Yeah.
I am both the economic director and the planning and zoning director, so I'm just the community development director. Yeah. So I get to wear 2 hats. It's extremely fun. I think planning and zoning and economic developing, they're really kind of like kissing cousins.
Oh yeah.
If you know strongly about one, the other one ties in really easy, and getting to be in those 2 realms has just been a blast.
A lot of synergy between the 2. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, a lot of overlay and contacts, and it just growth plans and plans and paths.
A lot of efficiency for the City of Mountain Home to have you in both roles, right? So you don't have to play that game of telephone sometimes.
That's what I'm going to tell my wife now. that it's efficiency, because when I first got here, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I was tasked right away to make certain changes to our code to encourage the development that we wanted to see. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think Mountain Home is a leader when it comes to best zoning practice, which kind of stinks, because we're kind of like the little brother of the Treasure Valley. Mm-hmm. When I first got here, people used to say we're not in the Magic Valley, we're not in the Treasure Valley, we are in the Tragic Valley.
Oh boy.
Kind of out here on the periphery. But Mayor Sykes, our city council now, has been all about rebranding and showing people really what makes this place special. Yep. And it's great, but when you're on the periphery, it's really easy to be in the shadows of Boise and Nampa and Meridian and really the big three. But I think if people realized what was going on here as far as the ordinances that are changing, the regulations, the customer service that we provide, I think they would be fairly astounded.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, maybe help us understand, like, what's the population of Mountain Home geographically? Where does it sit in relation to the big three in the state of Idaho? Because people who are listening to this who aren't from Idaho may need to conceptualize.
So we're like, depending how fast you're going, 35 minutes, 40 minutes east of Boise. Okay. You can get to downtown Boise quicker from Mountain Home than you can from Caldwell, Nampa sometimes. So we are fairly close. Even though we have that chunk of distance between us, we're very accessible.
It feels like a long ways, geographically, but as far as time-wise, it's this. I mean, it really is the same or faster, like you said.
It is.
We scooted right out here today.
Lack of traffic and just a straight shot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very easy. We go to Costco once a week to get applesauce for our kiddos. So it's
just like the rest of us.
It's a very easy drive.
Yep.
Also, our population, we're between like 15,000, 16,000 people, but our service population of people who come, work here, shop here on a daily basis is more like 25,000.
Okay, pulling in from a lot of the surrounding areas. Awesome.
And what are some of the notable workforce hiring agencies around here?
So obviously Mountain Home Air Force Base, go gunfighters.
Yeah.
They are a F-15E wing here. They employ around like 6,000 people are on that base at one time. We have people that reside here. We have people that reside in Boise who also work there as well. We have Marathon Cheese, which is a cheese packaging operation out of Wisconsin. We have the school district, the city, the county, Walmart. We have Inventive and In the Ditch Solutions right up on the hill off of Exit 95. Yeah. So we're hoping to have more bigger employers come in.
Yeah. So what kind of other employers would a economic development director kind of chase for this kind of city?
So to chase for this kind of city, like a lot of rural towns, really it comes down to our utilities and what we're able to provide. Yeah. Popular, it's very popular for people to say that Mountain Home doesn't have any water. We have water.
Yeah,
I have heard that.
We do.
I would say that's a general consensus.
Let's put that one to bed. Huh?
We do. We do have water. We do have water. We have enough for our needs. Now, do we have enough water for the next 100 years? No, I think we have to get creative and find creative solutions. Sewer, we have a sewer pond system, which economically is great, but for longevity and sustainability, it's probably not in our best interest. So we kind of have to figure out those issues, and as we're figuring out those issues, when it comes to like food manufacturers, those are the first ones to go. A lot of water, a lot of wastewater. However, when it comes to logistics, fulfillment centers, those types of uses, plastics manufacturing, that's something that we can be geared up towards. But what we realized, and I've been in my position for the last 2.5 years, our biggest barrier right now is housing.
Got it.
Because if I bring in a major employer with 150 people, we don't have anywhere for them to live.
Yeah.
Right now. Now the market has kind of cooled off somewhat. We have the most inventory we've ever had, but our month's inventory is still maybe 1.5. It isn't fantastic.
Wow.
We've also seen the price of a single family home dramatically rise. When I first got here, it was around $136 a square foot. Now it's $210, which is a big deal for Mountain Home when your household income is only approximately $50,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And our last multifamily product was built in 2008.
There is one that is approved.
There is.
Along the highway, kind of near the Walmart.
So
it's being marketed right now by NAI Select. And
we've actually approved a lot. And this is where I kind of want to pat the Mountain Home team on the back, our mayor and our city council. Over the past 2.5 years, we have approved over 2,000 dwelling units.
Wow.
In the last 2.5 years, we have not denied one residential project.
That's interesting.
That is.
Including a mobile home park,
Including mobile home. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't...
have some requirements that you
conflict,
laid out.
That there wasn't contention, that there wasn't some collaboration to make projects better suited for what we have. But I think in Mountain Home, the proof is in the pudding that you have a group of leaders who want growth.
Yep.
And especially that multifamily, that missing middle type of housing, that also, because 60% of what we approved is multifamily.
Wow.
And
Has
that
any of
doesn't
it started to come out of the ground yet? Like, are you seeing people start to develop it? Or
slowly but surely.
Okay.
So our biggest obstacle in Mountain Home is comps. We don't have comparables for these large multifamily products.
Yeah, so
We're really good at single family. So getting funding for those has been extremely difficult.
Yeah.
We are seeing a few come out of the ground, but that's just collective investors that have all of their cash up front. They
Right.
don't have to use any traditional lenders.
Yeah.
So we are seeing that happen. And my hope is a few sprout up, we'll have a comp, lenders will become more comfortable with our market, and we can see all these other projects that we've approved come to fruition.
yeah. Is there a lot of rentals in Mountain Home?
Not a lot, no. Right now, our occupancy is 95%.
That's a strong.
It is.
So you would say, and do you have any data on how many rentals there are versus single family homes or versus owned homes?
I do, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
Can you throw out like a guess, like how many?
For single family, we just did it. I know it's over 100
Okay.
that we have that are rentals.
Okay.
But the rental market is kind of a mixed bag in Mountain Home because, like I mentioned, we're an Air Force town and we love being an Air Force town. But being an Air Force town comes with certain hurdles where we have airmen who have a housing allowance. A housing allowance which has been increased because we don't have enough housing inventory
Right.
here, so they've had to include Boise numbers in that.
Oh.
So you can have these brand new one-bar airmen with a housing allowance of like $1,600.
Yeah.
Disposable income
Okay.
just for housing.
So there is a need for
There is a need
yeah
because
for
what
just that
happened?
population alone.
Yeah, for that population alone. But what they do is they kind of set the bar when it comes to our
Right.
events.
Right.
So if you're in Mountain Home and you're not affiliated with the Air Force Base,
It's hard to afford
it
a
becomes even
space
more
to rent.
unaffordable.
Yep.
I don't know what the solution is. You know, thankfully we have some subsidized projects coming online that use government tax credits if you make with a certain range, and we have a lot of market coming on. And a lot of what we hear, surprisingly, for our market projects from people who are opposed is that we can't afford it. Well, we need inventory.
Absolutely.
We need supply.
Right.
You know, maybe the typical Mountain Home person can't afford this, but someone can, and they'll leave where they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And create that.
And then we can have that cycle
Good.
of
Or they'll
housing.
all come from Boise. I feel like Mountain Home, from the conversations I've had in the last couple of years with people in the valley, is like Mountain Home is the place I want to move to because it's more affordable and that's where I can be, and the commute's not as bad.
or have a
to
little
Boise.
more space, get a little more house.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get a lot more of other things as well. Because here in Mountain Home, what Mayor Sykes, he's been our mayor for the past 8 years, and he's done an amazing job. He's done tons of projects from our downtown revitalization to a multitude of others. But right now, the really big thing that we are pursuing is municipal-owned fiber. We know broadband is the future.
Right.
COVID showed us that it's a necessity,
Yep.
but we also know that that's what's going to set us apart. Because
Interesting.
I have to compete with the big three.
Right.
I'm not going to win at amenities, and I have to compete with the other small communities, which are amazing.
Right.
You know, before we got started, we were talking about Caldwell. You know, Steve Jenkins. They've done an amazing job rebranding that city.
Yes.
It's amazing. CUNA is doing amazing things. You have Middleton coming out of nowhere, and then
Yeah.
Emmett.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
So we need to do something different. So no other place in the Treasure Valley area is pursuing municipal fiber.
So maybe do a basic overview of what municipal fiber is.
So what municipal fiber is that we treat broadband infrastructure the same way that we do sewer and water infrastructure, with the same importance. So we are not a ISP. We do not provide internet service, but we provide the highway for it.
Yep. Yep.
So the biggest obstacle and the reason why we have monopolies is because building out the infrastructure is so expensive.
Yeah. Yep.
But if we own the infrastructure, we can say anyone can hop on. You have all these different ISPs hop on.
Yeah.
So right now, we're piloting our municipal fiber program. We also have some LIDs. We're going to hook up more houses, and we have businesses, but they're getting like a gig up and a gig down for $7.99 a month.
Wow.
What?
And it's
That's
reciprocal,
Yeah.
up and
Well, that's
down.
reasonable right
That's
there
incredible.
for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's incredible because they can
It
rent
is.
the bandwidth, right? Like, isn't that kind of how
Yeah.
ISPs use? Like, you build it and then they can utilize the bandwidth.
And the coolest thing about it, and I would be remiss not to say, so we're doing the Ammon, Idaho model. Ammon, Idaho was the first group to really do it, and they're amazing. Harvard Business Review did an article on them, how
How
they
about
have
that?
some of the best broadband when it comes to value
Yeah.
and effectiveness in the entire world.
Wow.
Not just Idaho, not just
That is
the
incredible.
United States, but the
Yeah.
entire world. So look that up, Google it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And they laid a really great path forward that I think other people are going to want to follow. I know that we're looking into it. I think Star's looking into it as well. I think I heard Eagle. But what's great is we are just small enough where to do these big innovative things, they aren't ginormous lifts.
Right.
Whereas when you're a larger municipality like Boise and Meridian,
Yeah,
there's
good
more
luck.
stipulations,
Yeah.
there's more bureaucracy, there's more decision making, there's more egos
Right.
sometimes, and it can be more difficult to implement.
Right.
So I
Just
think
more people, right? More decision makers.
just,
you have
just
to
more
convince.
people.
Yeah.
There's just more
Yeah.
decision makers. So I'm really excited for our future, and I'm a millennial, and I like to say I'm not obsessed over iPads and being online and all that, but I know for a fact that we will probably have people when they look at relocating to Idaho, relocating to the Treasure Valley, where they're going to see, well, Mountain Home has municipal fiber, and that may be the reason someone chooses to live here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I liked what you had said earlier about kind of trying to get ahead of future changes with the development code.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of cover basically how you would say that you guys have strategized doing that?
Oh man.
Because I feel like in the cities that I've been operating in, it seems like there's been a lot of code changes. Obviously, it feels like they're coming behind to address problems that are happening. So it'd be
Yeah.
nice to hear how you're trying to get ahead
So
of it.
really, our philosophy was we want decision makers and participants in decision making to have discretion. A lot of codes throughout Idaho, I don't think it's anyone's fault, but they have so many hard and fast prerequisites
Right.
where there's no negotiation. It has to be this way. We need a minimum lot that has to be exactly this, and it has to look exactly like this. And then we're going to put design standards on it. It has to be 3 shades of different colors, and
Right.
it has to have a porch, and it has to have all these different things. And we're like, that's when we're talking about housing affordability
Right.
and how we have an inventory issue.
Right.
Are we making it easier or are we making it harder? Are we making housing more attainable
expensive. Yep.
or less attainable? That doesn't mean we don't want good development. But if someone has a wild idea of how to do it differently, we want to be able to make a decision on that.
Right.
So a lot of those minimum things we got rid of. For certain districts, we have certain neighborhoods which are considered legacy neighborhoods that we want to preserve, and we want to have that, but we also know that we need to have density where it's appropriate.
Right.
Our planned unit development ordinance, it went down from 5 pages to 1.
Oh, thank goodness.
That's cool.
And
Go look that up and read it.
and that's
It needs to be an Idaho standard.
it is. And I would be remiss again if I didn't give credit to where I used to work, the city of Twin Falls, for that. Because when you're in the when you're in the public center sector, you are able to plagiarize everything.
Right.
So they had an excellent PUD code. I just took it and adopted it.
Yeah.
And after that, after those changes, we started to see all these applications come through.
That's awesome.
And it's allowed people to think out of the box. And we're getting different products that we've never seen. Attached townhomes, live work units, 3-story townhomes
Right.
with a garage underneath. And it's
Yeah.
awesome. And it adds diversity of housing.
Yeah.
I believe the philosophy here, which I believe is the philosophy that most municipalities would confess to, is we believe in private property rights. Now, obviously, we all believe in that to a certain point. It's like you shouldn't build a a nuclear waste plant next to the preschool.
Right.
We shouldn't do
That
that.
sounds like a law school hypothetical if
It
I've
does,
ever heard one.
right? It does.
Or a great way to make the X-Men.
Right.
It does, but I think all Idaho cities would do well to reassess their core beliefs and see if their zoning ordinance reflects that.
That's a good point.
Because if we're all about private property rights, and don't get me wrong, I'm a planner. I love master planned communities. I love harmony. I don't want everything to be messed up and jagged. But we live in a very different world than we did before, and we have to adapt.
Right.
Yeah. And if you're engaging from the top down based on your values and your mission from the city, and you can find a way to be flexible with the code to try to help create a solution for the things that you value, it seems like that's a good starting point, which I don't know if a lot of people have taken that time.
Well, and how I would recommend to my counterparts elsewhere on how do you engage and how do you start having these conversations. Idaho is all about economics. We pride ourselves on it. We pride ourselves on this massive state surplus. We're very good with money, and we're very conservative with it. And this is where it's crazy, because when we think about progressive planning concepts, people like politicizing it, and they're like, well, that's a liberal-minded thing. That's socialist. That's weird. Well, it actually makes complete sense financially. And the paradigm that I'm talking about, there's this awesome guy. His name's Charles Marone. He is an engineer who's also a planner out in Michigan. He wrote a book called Strong Towns. And it's all about creating the built environment in such a way that the tax base can actually sustain it. Like, it makes no sense to me that in every city, we have terrible sidewalks. We have terrible roads, and we're like, let's build more when we can't maintain what we already have. And that's kind of the essence of it, is let's have appropriate density. Let's make sure that we have appropriate tax dollars to secure the services that we need. And unfortunately, just building single-family homes doesn't get you over the finish line.
Yeah.
Which is what we've built for the longest time. And it's not bad.
But it just becomes wider and wider and wider and goes
It
farther
does.
and farther out.
And you
then
sprawl
there's more.
out all those utilities, all those services.
Right. Yep.
And the property tax dollars from a single-family home is dramatically less than a multifamily, than a commercial, than an industrial. And when you don't have a mix, that means that you're going to have higher property taxes.
Yep. Someone's got to pay for it.
Someone has to pay for it. And that's not and I'm not opposed to single-family homes. I live in a single-family home. I live in a cul-de-sac right now, which in the planning world is like, no, don't do that. But we need more apartments. We need denser development. Maybe we don't need these big yards. I spoke about one of the biggest issues in Mountain Home is water. In Mountain Home, 5/6 of our water is used for irrigation purposes.
Okay.
To water grass.
Wow.
5/6.
That's not watering crops. That's watering lawns.
It's watering
And if you
lawns
can put
and
40 residents in one building that has a very small yard space
Yeah.
for a dog park, that's a different story.
It is a very different story, but it's a hard conversation to have.
Right,
because
'cause everyone wants
everyone
their
here has
yard.
grown up with. I love my yard. I
Me
love
too.
mowing the lawn. That's where I do my best thinking. I love going out there with bare feet. It's great. But is that a amenity which is keeping us from being financially solvent overall as a community? And I think those are the hard conversations we have to have. And maybe it's not getting rid of grass. Maybe it's just using a grass that needs less water.
Right.
There's so many different varieties now, and it's having those conversations. Yeah.
It feels like trying to increase the idea for density does feel like it's been politicized a little bit more than it should be. And it feels like people are coming to Idaho for space and they want it to grow out. And a lot of people are coming from the states down south that we choose not to name, and they're coming into Idaho, and they're focusing on wanting more space.
They do.
And more housing, but then they come here to escape taxes. And so it's just kind of a conundrum.
Yeah, one of the things that we brought up earlier before we started the pod was it's amazing to be in a state and we hear this every day, of everything that's wrong with California, and we are building the exact same thing. We're building subdivisions like they do in California. We're investing late in alternative transit, just like California did. Traffic is becoming worse and worse and worse in the Treasure Valley, and it will only get worse. because we embraced that single family paradigm wholeheartedly. And like I said, I'm not against the single family home, but when that's the largest percentage of your land use, you're going to have all the problems that go with it.
There's a lot of inefficiencies there.
A lot of inefficiencies.
Which has been nice to see the city of Boise rewriting their code to try to improve density on single-family housing lots and in the downtown core. But I don't think all the cities in the Treasure Valley are choosing to do that, so it's nice.
And there's ways to do it appropriately. I'm not proposing going right into the middle of a single-family neighborhood and building a 10-floor high-rise.
Right.
But on the periphery, in that buffer space between commercial and residential, we can have those things, and we need to have those things. Going again, kind of using that "why are we building California" analogy, people keep on saying, well, let's keep Idaho, Idaho. The way we keep Idaho, Idaho is making sure our kids can stay here.
Right.
Like that's the heart of it,
Can
right?
afford to live here.
Like that's the heart of it. And right now, we're building things that they can't afford to live in.
That's interesting.
The built environment is not conducive or supportive to them staying.
Yeah, when we have $500,000 starter homes in Boise.
Yes. So, and it's weird, and I wish that was the picture people could see, because when they hear about multifamily projects coming, and I've sat in so many public meetings, they automatically think, oh, these people,
Right.
these renters, they don't care about anything. They're the worst.
There was a city council member in Nampa that said, like, we're doing townhomes out here. You know how much the crime's going to go up in townhomes? And you can just obviously
And I want to be like, your
There's-
grandkid's going to live in this
There's
townhome.
stereotypes, right?
It
There's
is.
just-
Right.
It
I lived
is.
in a few apartments before I bought a house, right? Yeah.
You know, all of us did. So if we're going to keep Idaho, Idaho, we need to build differently, and the public sector and the private sector need to get along, because right now cost is through the roof. I have an obligation to make sure the needs of my residents are met, and that means having very collaborative and effective relationships with
Right.
private counterparts. It's all about speed when it comes to development.
Yeah, you're right.
Every day you're losing money.
Right. Yep.
It's all about speed. One thing we've been able to do at Mountain Home, because of our size, is we've been very fast when it comes to our hearing processes and still abiding by state code. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do that.
Right.
I don't know if it's sustainable totally, but we do emphasize it.
Well, when you ask a builder or a developer about one of their biggest headaches in the development or construction process, oftentimes it's the time it takes to go through city or municipality approval. So it's impressive that you guys have been able to stay out ahead of that.
We have, and it's a culture we have in the Development Services Department. When you get an email, respond back as soon as you can. Don't put it on the back burner, and really work and be there and be solution oriented.
Right.
Well, and as you saw, you were recruited. There was a lot of turnover in the valley within the city planning and
Well, and you
offices.
brought that
It's a
up in
hard
talking
job.
about Twin Falls. There's been a lot of turnover in every office. I mean, when you look at the longest tenured economic developer in the Treasure Valley, is it Steve?
That's crazy if so.
And he's been 3 years or something. I mean, there's a lot that have been in a year, maybe a year and a half. You've been here for how long?
I've been here 2.5 years.
Okay, yeah.
So, and really in my profession, you see a domino effect. So when someone leaves one position, everyone kind of does a little
Just
shuffle.
re-up. Yeah.
One thing though that's really scary is right now Idaho doesn't have any planning programs. So my graduate program that I went defunct. Before that, Boise State had a community planning program. That one went defunct as well. Luckily, shout out to Boise State. We have a really good urban studies program, which is trying to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
They're actually developing a community planning certificate.
Okay.
But it's a profession that a lot of people don't know exists. I didn't know it was really a job.
Yeah.
And then when I found out it was a job, I was like, this is the coolest thing in the entire world.
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
But it does come with its own stress. You're working with the public, and the public isn't always sunshine and rainbows. And sometimes you see the very worst.
Right.
But other times you can see the very best.
So you're
too.
going to have a lasting impact on the development of a city. It's pretty impressive, especially for a kid that played SimCity a lot growing
Oh,
up.
dude.
Yeah.
You know, and I love, so at the beginning I said in Meridian, I was in charge of sign review. And I remember going in the village and there was a new store that opened up, and I approved their sign. And I had my wife take my picture of me pointing at the sign.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, I made sure that sign was compliant.
That's awesome.
But now, like, when you see projects come out of the ground, and when you see new businesses come and succeed, and knowing that I help that happen, I help make things become a lot better. There's no better feeling.
That's good. That's good. So, you seem like a relational guy. You seem like you're driven to kind of know the community in which you serve, which I appreciate that. And what are some of the ways you've used to engage that and build the relationships after being a new person here?
Ooh, so I can tell you, if I could go back at the very beginning, I was very terrible at it. When I came into this role, I was very goal-oriented of what needed to be accomplished.
Yeah.
And I had my tunnel vision, I had my blinders on, and I completed the task. Now in doing that, I missed out on a lot of opportunities to get to know the community, to speak to them, and to hear their concerns. Luckily, I've been able to ask for forgiveness in many instances and form those relationships now, which are really great, which I think are imperative, because when you come in with the planning ideas that I talked about, they're kind of scary for some people. Yeah. Especially for some people whose dream, they love small towns. They love their subdivision and riding bikes in the road and no traffic, and everything I'm bringing is change. I am the personification of change.
I'm the face of change.
I am. No. So them understanding who I am and my values is insanely important.
Yep.
It's insanely important.
Yeah.
And knowing that I have skin in the game, that what we're doing is not as much bringing people in, but taking care of the people we already have is insanely important.
Right.
One thing that we try to do before every planning and zoning meeting, and again, this is something I took from Twin Falls. Shout out to Jonathan Spenlove, he's the planning and zoning director there. Before every meeting, we'll go out into the audience and introduce ourselves to everyone. We'll shake hands, and I'll give him my card. I'll ask him, why are you here today?
Talk about personifying the process, right? But it goes both ways.
It does.
It's like the pastor of church. You go in there and just build rapport out of the gate because you want to have relationships with these people.
Well, and it's a lot of people who show up to these meetings, they've never been to a meeting. They don't know what's going on. Yeah. Sometimes I can answer questions and they just get up and leave. They're like, oh, that's not a big deal. And other times I can be like, you know what? This is either going to get approved or it's going to get denied. If you have any questions about whatever happens, you can call me the very next day. I can walk you through it. If you have standing with any decision, come to me. I'm going to explain to you all of the different things that you're able to do as a citizen, everything you're able to do to speak to decision makers, to express your concerns, and to make sure that you participate. Planning is supposed to be inherently democratic. Right. That's what makes it terribly messy and beautiful and miserable.
Right.
All at the same time.
Yeah, it's good.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen.
There is.
So you also have a podcast.
We do have a podcast.
With the city, so let's hear about that.
Yeah, so we knew we needed to be distinct. One thing that we always had when developers came is they would want to know everything they could about Mountain Home. They're like, who are your city council people? What are they like? What do they not like? And they would want all these nuances. And I'm like, what better way to capture nuances?
Yeah, tune in.
Than tuning in on a podcast. So we created a podcast, me and Betsy Hiddleston. She's amazing. She's our communications specialist. She's
Betsy is amazing. That graphic that you saw before it turned off, that was Betty.
Minutes.
Betsy, yep.
Yeah. We set up this podcast where we have city officials and business owners or other prominent people. They come on and they kind of tell their Mountain Home story. How I got here, this is what I like about Mountain Home, this is what I do, this is what I think we could do to make our community better. And it's been amazing. It's been fantastic. From a relational standpoint, podcast days are my favorite days because I get to sit down and I get to learn about people and I get to learn about, man, our community is just full of unparalleled talent and passion and grit. Right. The entrepreneurial spirit in Mountain Home is ginormous. It's beyond impressive. And the coolest thing that's happened was we had an outside developer come in, schedule a meeting with us, and he's like, I've been listening to your guys' podcast. And I was like, it served its purpose.
That's right.
It served its purpose. And I love it. We're going to do more episodes. We're going to continue to invest in it, because if people want to understand places, they need to understand the people, and it's just a great medium.
So we've covered multifamily, that kind of silo in the commercial real estate sector. What about retail, office, industrial? Are there any developments going on in town?
Yes.
Is there anything approved going on? Like, can you kind of just give us a rundown?
So, like I mentioned before, really our commercial goals that we have really hinge on residential. Rooftops follow businesses.
Absolutely.
That's pure and simple, especially if we get into more of our franchised businesses, like an Olive Garden or a Target. Well, they have a mathematical formula,
That's right.
and if you can't meet every single thing, then you're out. The good news is we are seeing some of that more big city development. We got our Dutch Bros, so we've made it.
By their demographics.
We did. A Taco Bell, a grocery outlet, all within the past year. We're getting our first tunnel-style car wash, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So we're seeing those come in. We're also seeing our local homegrown mountain home businesses expand.
That's wonderful.
Barista is a coffee shop here in town. They started in like a small shed, and then they grew to a brick and mortar location, and now they're building like their headquarters. So that's been exciting. Really, I think to encourage this other development, we need our housing to get off the ground because they want to know that they have a customer base there. I can tell you here in Mountain Home, we have plenty of room for future retail, for future personal services. That's all available.
They just need the households to show the demographics, and they need the views per day on the streets.
Correct. And we have industrial opportunities. Our retail leakage is immense. In 2018, 2019, we partnered with a company called Buxton, and they did a retail leakage report. Anyone can text me or email me. I will give you it and show you where Mountain Home is lacking.
Yeah, where people are going to buy stuff instead of buying it from Mountain Home.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of on a related point, so say there's a business that wants to come to Mountain Home or somewhere in Idaho. What are some things that you as a city are doing to help that process happen, to be more attractive to these businesses?
We are beyond accessible. As soon as they call, they immediately get forwarded to me, they get forwarded to Betsy, another person of the development team, and we cradle you like a little baby chick. No, it's
awesome.
it's true.
Yeah.
We learn about all of your needs. We have a list of questions that we ask. What do you need? What are you looking for?
That's good.
We're able to give them examples of properties that same day.
Yeah.
Not within days. We're just extremely business friendly with how we do things. I think we're really good at outlining the processes as well. Batting 1,000 when it comes to like residential development approvals is impossible, and it's unheard of. And I believe the reason we were able to achieve that was our preliminary application requirement is very robust.
Yep, it's dialed in.
The very first thing I tell anyone is we are here to make sure you have the most persuasive and successful application possible.
Yeah, don't waste your time. So many people spend that time with
Yes.
the pre-app, and then they spend time at the city at the pre-app meetings, and then they go in and they're kind of blindsided and say, why did I spend all this time?
It is, and I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste the city council's time. If your application at the very beginning is inherently bad, I should tell you that this is bad.
Right.
Yes.
This isn't going to work. But I should also be able to tell you, but this is what you could do. This is how we can make it better. This is how we can make it align with our comprehensive plan.
Yep.
This is how we can make it align
Which is
with the
easier
city
with a small
goals.
population, a small city, and more staff.
It is,
Yeah.
and we're able to have that time, and we're able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, if you want to provide that type of customer service, whether you're in a bigger city or a smaller town, you're going to have to invest in it.
Yep.
And you're going to have to hire more staff to make sure they have the time.
And train your staff on the importance of building
Yes,
culture and
but I can tell
relationships.
you, countless times we have received emails and phone calls saying that you guys have been the best city I've ever worked with. When I was in Meridian, I worked under Cameron Ariel. He was the community development director there. Amazing dude. I was only there briefly under his tenure, but I remember me and him talking. Like, if they were to grade us on Yelp, would we get 5 stars?
Yeah.
What sort of comments would they have? And that's how
That's
I think about
interesting.
customer service every day. is government always gets lambasted for being the absolute worst when it comes to customer experience,
Yeah.
Sense of
accessibility,
urgency.
sense of
Yep.
urgency, response. And here in Mountain Home, it's like, no, we are going to be the standard.
Yeah, that's cool. Way to own it. That's awesome.
We love it. It's
So,
fun.
any projects that you want to just kind of highlight that are
Oh,
coming up that like so people can say, hey, that's
Any projects? Some really cool ones that are coming up. We have Mountain Bound Custom Storage and RV Park right off of the exit. They're a group out of Lake Havasu, Arizona, and they do these RV storage parks, which have a metal building storage component
Yep.
to it, where you can do a man cave, you can store your vehicles. They're
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're like extremely
yeah,
popular.
storage condos. Yeah.
Yeah, storage
We have a
condos,
guy in our office, Shane Jimenez, that does a lot of those.
and it's super fun and it's super amazing. They have one out of Lake Havasu, Arizona. They have one near the Grand Canyon, and they're trying to create this system for retirees or people who want to live a little bit more nomadic lifestyle, where you can go summer in Mountain Home, go winter here, and it's just a really cool product.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's visible right off of the interstate. People are going to see it and they're going to wonder what it is, and it's
Right.
going to intrigue their interest, and they're going to get off and hopefully see that and what the rest of Mountain Home has to offer. You have Desert Sage Medical building a brand new state-of-the-art medical facility. It's going to be the first facility that we know of in Idaho, which has a drive-up medical examination window.
How about
What?
that?
Because,
Yeah.
well, and it's not even a window. Like, you go inside a garage, you have these people that can come out and administer services to you.
Wow.
Because COVID taught us that we need to be prepared for everything.
It's convenient.
So
That's amazing. Yeah,
that's super cool.
it's a pretty cool model.
And then, like I
Better than
said,
sitting in the waiting room, catching what everybody else
I would
has.
100% rather sit in my car and just be like, just turn out your head out the window. That's great.
yeah, so we have those going on. We have the Shoshone-Bannock tribe. They own a large piece of land, and they're interested in a
the
gaming
casino.
operation
Yeah, the great
So they
casino.
already own the land.
project. Yes, so they
Okay.
own the land.
This has been like rumored around. So
We've
what's
heard
the,
a lot
what's
about
the deal
it.
with the casino?
So
Yeah.
the only thing I can really say is they are currently involved in the process to pursue a gaming operation on that land. The city really doesn't give any approvals because
kind of a different sovereignty
because
there.
it has to be sovereign.
Yep.
But they do want our feedback. I know that's something the governor wants. And I would just encourage anyone who's interested in that project to learn as much as possible. I can tell you that that's what the city is doing right now.
What
It's-
resources would you recommend for that if someone's interested in
The
learning
show
more?
Yellowstone.
Right.
No, so the Shoshone-Bannock tribe, you
I
can
mean,
actually...
they own the one down between Pocatello and Shelley, right?
Yep, and Fort Hall.
Fort Hall.
And I would encourage contacting their community development office.
Okay. Yeah.
They're extremely helpful, very forthright, and learn as much as possible.
Cool.
We'll see what happens with that.
Interesting.
It's an exciting time to be Mountain Home. We have a lot of things happening on the periphery. We have the Micron expansion. Micron reached out to the city of Mountain Home
Specifically
to
to
talk about housing.
Yep.
So
great,
it's
too.
exciting. We have so many different things going on. There's so much potential. We're seeing housing that we desperately need come to fruition, and we're punching above our weight. And I would hope that people, if they ever get fatigued by just doing the big three in the Treasure Valley, that they give Mountain Home a serious consideration, because you're going to be able to work with a group who is pro-business, pro-good growth, quality growth, where everyone wins. We are all about finding those solutions.
I was going to ask you to give a pitch at the end, but you just did it.
That was it. Yeah, it was really
You
good.
nailed it. So, well, that was good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting us come out here to Mountain Home and interview you and spend time with you today. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's been great. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see future episodes of your guys' podcast. And anytime you guys are passing through, come say hi, yeah?
Yeah,
Awesome.
love to.
Hey,
Sweet.
You got it. Thanks, Brock.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.